Welcome back to another episode of Let's Have a Sip. I'm your host, Sean Drinks. The Godfather's in the house. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man. Yeah, that name surfaces once in a while. There's not too many Atlanta people that know that nickname.
Well, you know what's funny is, I've always heard Rob's, Ryan Robb, shout out to him, and your brother Steven and um, some other people that you more so hung out with that would call you the Godfather. And I always asked, why is he called the Godfather? And they're like, you just got to know. And I'm like, well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I still, to this day, don't know why you're called the Godfather.
Yeah, I don't even know if I know why I'm called the Godfather. I think
Okay.
I think it had something to do with the Will Ferrell movie that came out years ago. Why am I not Wedding Crashers, but the other one that slipped in my mind that was so good with him and
Old school.
Yeah, Old School. So
Yeah.
maybe it had something to do with that. But
Okay.
yeah, I think Rob's may have started that.
Yeah, man, you can't have a nickname and not know why you're called
Yeah,
that nickname.
I think it was for my ability to be good with the ladies, but I don't know if that was 100% what it was. But
I
we'll go.
mean, you got the swagger, so I mean that's in the past, but
Yeah, we'll go with that. I've got a good one now that I've been married to for going on 9 years. So
nice. Damn, I didn't know it was that long. Yeah, I remember going to your wedding because it was in Atlanta and that was a cool little spot. It was fun, man.
yeah. That yeah, man, it's 2014, so it's been yeah, March will be 9 years for us, which is crazy.
Nice. That's awesome. So you said you were sipping on some whiskey. What is that whiskey again?
Yeah, so I've got some Rebel 10-year that some friends bought for me. I know you're a bourbon guy, and I recently, like in the last couple of years, kind of decided to like get into bourbons. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to like spend money on bourbons, like I want to know that like I have a palate that can at least like differentiate between a nice bourbon and like a cheaper bourbon. And so I did like my own like taste test. So I waited till I'd collected like 9 bourbons.
Yeah.
So I had like 3 like $25 bourbons, and then I had like a couple $50 bourbons, and then a couple like $100 like plus bourbons.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like sampled all of them, blind taste tested, and it was pretty cool because had my wife behind me, and she was handing me a glass, and I had just enough that I didn't want to get like crazy tipsy from 1 to 9, so I had just enough to like palate, so it was like a fair assessment. So because if you do a little too much of a pour, number 9, 8 or 9 is going to taste better than 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And no matter what it is, right? So, but I just did that, man, and I was like, oh, I think I got 1 wrong out of the whole 9.
Wow.
I was able to like pinpoint, this is this is that, and so I kind of figured out like what I like, what I don't like, and what's worth the money to me, what's not worth the money, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I've done a couple of blind tastings with my now fiance Courtney, and I'll ask her like, "Hey, can you pour me whatever? Like, I don't care, just pour them in glasses, and we'll see if I can figure it out." And I'm not gonna pretend like my palate's amazing. I'm trying to get better at it a lot each day because like whiskey's, I mean, I love whiskey, specifically bourbon, and it's my jam. And yeah, my first blind tasting, I did not do as well as you did, but yeah.
Well, that's probably harder too when I don't have 30 or 40 or 50 bottles. I mean, I had just 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was having to select between Stephen was telling me you have a really big collection, and my wife's my brother-in-law, he's a Scotch guy. He's got 80, 90 bottles of Scotch. So like, yeah, that'd be pretty amazing if you could, pull one out of the wall and him have no idea what you're pulling out and him get, him pinpoint it. That'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah, no doubt. And I definitely can't do that. But as of yesterday, I went bourbon hunting a lot yesterday, probably for about 5 hours, and that's a lot. That's a lot of time to be driving around. I'm in Dallas, Texas. That's a lot of time to be driving around, going to different liquor stores, trying to find some good hitters. And I got some good stuff yesterday. And as of now, I have 129 bottles, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's impressive.
this is a problem. It's a good problem, I think. So
Yeah. I usually have between like 8 and 12.
yeah,
That's one of my sweet spot. So I like some of the nicer ones. I like I really um I know Angel's Envy. Like a lot of people think it's like a little overhyped, like the wine port
yeah,
barrel.
mhm.
But they're like rum cast barrels to me is just like really unique, and
Oh
I just
yeah,
really love that little flair of like Caribbean rum you get at the end.
yeah, for
So
sure. Yeah,
that's usually one of the nicer ones I carry, and then I'll have like this Rebel is nice. Someone bought me a Whistle Pig 10 year, or maybe it's 12 year that I haven't tried yet. I haven't opened that up, but
yeah, I
uh,
haven't tried Whistle Pig yet. I've heard it's pretty decent, and Big Dodd, Keith Dodd, shout out to him. He said that he had like someone gifted him like a 15 or 18-year Whistle Pig, and I'm like, someone gifted you that? That's kind of nice. So, and he said it was pretty decent. So,
it gets a lot of hype. So I'm kind of interested to see if it's. I mean, and some of those bottles are really, they can get really pricey. So
dude, and I had a buddy of mine just came onto the podcast, Duran Burnside, and he lives in Cleveland, Tennessee, and a big bourbon guy, and we were talking about just because a bottle could be $100 or 300, whatever it may be, doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually going to be good. Price does not, to a degree, does not dictate exactly if it's actually going to be good or not, but it depends on the person. I could think something would be amazing, and you could taste it and be like, you know what? I'd rather have that Angel Envy's bottle or whatever.
yeah,
So, but um,
yeah. I mean, speaking of that, I had a buddy of mine who makes really good money, and price for things are it's really not an issue. And so he got like a shipment of like a couple like really nice bottles. I was over at his house. This has been a couple years, and he opens the bottle and he's like, "Hey, you want to taste a sip of it?" I'm like, "Sure." What is it? And it was a Whistle Pig, and I forget what kind it was, but it was an $800 bottle of whiskey, which is the most expensive thing I think I've ever tasted. I think I've had. I take that back. I did have, and depending on where you get it, may or may not be more expensive. Is the Pappies.
oh yeah,
But so I had a little bit of that, and that's been, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. But this was like the most expensive I think I'd had since. And I don't know. For me, it was like I'd rather have my $100 bottle of Blanton's than that $800 Whistle Pig. And that was just me.
yeah.
And he had it, and he was like, "Wow, this is the best I've ever had." And he went on and on about it. But yeah, there's a certain point, man, where it's just like price is kind of, it just sort of is what it is, man. People, it becomes about the price tag more so than the quality of what it is, in my opinion. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because it's more like of a status thing. Like, let's take Buffalo Trace for example. It's a very sought after type of brand because you got your Weller 107, the Antique 107, the red label. I got a couple back there behind me. I don't. You can kind of see those if you're
yeah, in
watching
the
it on.
middle there.
Yeah. So, you got as you said, Pappy, which to me, it's whatever. Pappy's nice, it's cool, whatever. But like, I've had a couple of different types of Pappy Van Winkles, and I paid $70 for like a Pappy 15 and for a 2-ounce pour, and I'm
Yeah,
like, it was good, but like, I can't justify paying that much for the whole like what I don't know $1,000 for a bottle. Like, if that doesn't instantly get me hammered, which I don't really
yeah.
do that often, like it's not worth it.
If
So
I'm paying that kind of money, the heavens should part. I should hear angel wings fluttering. You know what I mean? Like I need to
yeah,
have like a God encounter moment if I'm going to pay $1,000 for, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's just in my mind what it should be. So I guess I have it built up, to be something that's not possible, but
yeah, no doubt. And
yeah,
so we have whenever I say we, I'm talking about Texas. There is a liquor store called Specs, and excuse me, it's it's very similar to Total Wine
Hmm.
in regards to like the size of the store.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a very big mega warehouse for spirits in general. And so there's a specific one here in Dallas, Texas that will get some just major hitters. And there's a guy by the name of Ryan Powell, aka Tilted Bottle. Shout out to you, bud. Appreciate you and what you're doing. He will post a lot of different things in regards to what they're getting that day.
Hmm.
And like, hey, we're opening up at 10. We got X amount of bottles of, like, for instance, Russell's Reserve 13, which they just dropped last weekend.
Yeah.
And
Which is
it's
another one I've been wanting to try, actually.
it, I'm so upset at myself because I went to the specific specs whenever they were having the drop, and I got in line. I was probably about the 70th person in line. And before the doors opened, they probably had about 200 plus people. Don't really know. And I missed out by 10 people on getting one of the bottles. And um, it's cool, whatever. I'm glad that those people that got there were able to get that bottle. Never had it, but it's one of those things where I just enjoy the hunt and being able to go try to, get that bottle. I don't know what it is. It's just fun. But
And that gives you a fun story to, if you do get it, then you'll have two stories. You'll have the story where you missed it, and then you'll have the story where you actually got it.
yeah, no doubt. And I don't know if I know I told you I was drinking this Joseph Magnus right before we got on, but it's the cigar malt blend. That is, I hope you can find a bottle at some point, and 'cause it's very good. It's funny because your brother Steven, whenever he was over here with Big Keith, we were drinking this out in the backyard, and I think Keith is a little bit more into bourbon than Steven is, because I poured some of this, and this is a very high proof whiskeys. I think, if I'm not mistaken,
Is that
this
what, 100?
so the alcohol is 69.26. So if you take the 69 multiplied
Yeah,
by 2, it's like 138 or something like that.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah, dude, that's on the super high end.
exactly. So that's considered almost a hazmat. If you got 140 proof or above, it's a hazmat. That's like on the cusp of being like, it's pretty high up there. So I gave some to Steven, and he was like, I don't know if I can do this, Sean. Like, this is a little bit too much. So, and that kind of brings me to the point of, like, if you're getting into bourbon, you don't want to give something like this bottle that I'm drinking, Joseph Magnus, to someone that has never had bourbon before, because all they're going to taste is kerosene, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it was just funny to kind of see him drink that and be like, you know what? I can't finish this. I'm sorry. So
They've got Chattanooga whiskey has a good, like, they're like their stout or whatever, for whatever it is, double cast or whatever's good. I know it's like maybe 110 or 120 proof.
yeah.
And then I know last time I was at the liquor store, the rep was telling me that Jack Daniels, because I was really impressed with Jack Daniels. I don't like Jack Daniels like bottom of the line, just
Yeah.
Jack Daniels. It's awful. But they're like some of their like recent ones, like their single barrel is like really good for a $50 bottle. Like their single barrel Jack Daniels is delicious. And he was telling me they have a new, like a double cast, that's come out that's like 120 or 130, one of the really higher ones that he said is one of the better ones for that, that proof. So that's one of the ones I've been wanting to try too. So
Yeah, I haven't really branched out on Jack Daniels too much. Like you said, the bottom of the barrel, the Jack Daniels like '07 or whatever it's called. And, that's for certain people. It's not really my jam, but some people may like that. It's more of a mixer, Jack and Coke, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. If you're gonna go Jack and Coke, that's fine, right?
Yeah, but the Jack Daniels 10-year just recently dropped a couple of months ago. I don't know if that's a single barrel, but
Yeah, I don't know either.
but and then you got the Jack Daniels Coy Hill. It's got like a red label sort of. And I feel like this is a very underrated bottle from Jack Daniels, but it's the single barrel proof. It's kind of like a nice kind of like bottle, decanter. It's got a gold label on it.
Uh-huh.
It is so good. But yes,
Yeah.
Jack Daniels has some good stuff, and there's a lot of bottles out there that are very underrated, and they're sitting on the shelves, and I'm like, why are people not buying this? It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the market, man, is it's just interesting. Like I was talking to somebody, like my go-to, if I'm going to drink an under $30 bottle of whiskey or bourbon, I'm going to, this is actually a whiskey, but it tastes like a bourbon, is Conor McGregor's Proper 12.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, for 26, 27 bucks, like to me, it's, I like it just as much as I would like go with Buffalo Trace or, something else. And I was telling people, I think the reason that he did so well with that, other than him being Conor McGregor, was that he priced that at a price point that people that are going to drink an under $30 bottle of bourbon really don't have a lot of ties to that bourbon. So what he did is he tapped into a market. He was like, okay, we're going to price this thing right under 30 bucks. And we're going to hit a market where people aren't really tied to what they're drinking. And I think that was the genius behind that Proper 12, was if it had been $10 more, if he priced it at $36 or $37, I think it wouldn't have been near as successful.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting, man, because the market, there's so many good bourbons out there. Like, it's tough. You got, figure out how to tap into that market.
Yeah. And whenever you have a celebrity kind of like attached to a brand, like typically it may sell more than a lot of others, but that's one type of whiskey I never could really get into, was like Irish whiskey. So like Proper 12 Irish whiskey, but I've never tried it. So I can't say if I do or do not like Irish whiskey, but
Proper 12 tastes nothing like an Irish whiskey. And really? I should say nothing. The only Irish whiskey that I have ever tried is what's the big one, the Jameson.
Okay.
Jameson's the only one I've ever had, and I don't like Jameson. And so I was kind of skeptical as well, but Proper 12 is like my go-to. If it's under 30 bucks, that's what I'm usually sipping on.
Yeah, for sure.
I have to buy you a bottle and send it out to you.
Do it.
I'm sure they have it in Texas, though.
There is a cornucopia. I learned that word whenever I was 12. Cornucopia. That means a lot for everyone that doesn't know. Of whiskey that's in Dallas, man. Whether if you go to like some random restaurant or a liquor store, there's a lot of availability for whiskey in this general area. So it's very cool. And I picked up this bottle yesterday, actually. I had just talked about this with a buddy of mine on the last episode. This OKI.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, and I feel like it's not very well known, but you probably can't really see it. But at the top, the ring light's kind of washing it out. But this is a single barrel from Dallas Bourbon Club. They hand selected it from this particular company. OKI stands for Oklahoma, Kentucky, Indiana. So this is a straight rye whiskey. It's kind of funny because they also have a picture of a Dallas Cowboy Hall of Famer Roger Staubach on the back, which is interesting. But anyways, the cool thing about what the Dallas Bourbon Club does is, for instance, like with this bottle was like, I think like $150 or something, so pretty expensive for a bottle of bourbon. But, a lot of the money that came from this specific bottle will go to a lot of charities that they'll donate to, because the Dallas Bourbon Club is a nonprofit organization that will just donate to, I guess, certain charities, whatever. Don't really know the details about it, but I thought it was kind of cool. So I was like, I'm glad I could pick one of those up, and hopefully it tastes good, because if not, I'm going to cry. So
$50 sad.
So you just released a book, Acorn to Oak Trees. Right here. Pretty so far pretty good. I have not finished it yet, so I don't want to spoil the ending or anything like that, but I'm on chapter 4, and so far from what I've read, very very cool. Do you want to kind of speak on like what was the inspiration for you to be able to actually drop this book?
Yeah. I'll kind of spoil it, for people myself, but it's really that book is really. I mean, I've journaled for years, and I kind of finally felt like I had something that people would actually like potentially want to read. And the book really, it's 12 chapters, which chronicles 2020 essentially. So one chapter for each month of 2020. And it's really about my personal journey of switching careers at the age of 38. I'd been in the fitness industry for 15 plus years. I graduated college, jumped into I was a personal trainer. I managed a personal training studio, and then when I'm out on my own and was doing in-home training, I had my own business that was successful and enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. But I kind of just reached a point where I just kind of started getting a little bit burnt out. So at the time I was a strength and conditioning coach. So I transitioned out of training in home to doing strength and conditioning. I was at a private school. I was at pretty much in the strength and conditioning world. You either go the college route and you try to climb the rankings in college, or you land a job at a private school where you would want your kids to attend. So like a lot of strength coaches will land a job where they want their kids to attend, so they get greatly reduced tuition, and they'll just ride out their time at that school. And so I was working at, I had landed a job at one of those places, and I loved the institution. It's a great Christian school in Atlanta. And, but after 5 or 6 years of doing it, I was like, man, I can't see doing this for another 15, 20 years. And, that this again was during 2020. So I'm seeing our flag be burned, and I'm seeing officers, be spit on, and seeing our statues be torn down, seeing our country kind of be ripped apart. And I really kind of felt like the Lord was like, my faith and my relationship with Jesus Christ is super important to me. And I kind of felt like he was sort of pushing me in the direction of potentially pursuing law enforcement. And so at first I was like, man, I might be crazy. Like, I'm 38 years old. I've been in this career for so long. I'm in an incredible school. And my wife actually works at the same school. So we were on the same schedule. So we're getting, we had the same holidays off. We had the same hours. And but the book really just chronicles my thought process through the 2020 year, all the craziness, digesting everything that everyone else was digesting. And then also my journey of switching careers into this crazy world of law enforcement. And so it's kind of cool because it's in paperback. Like that whole year I now have in a little book format. So I can now give that to my girls later down down the road, and they can kind of read my thoughts back when I transitioned, because I feel like this will be a career that I can be in for a long time. And so that's really the essence of the book, man. It's just, it's a book about, it's never really too late to start, something new. It's about, not being scared to take risks. This was a big risk for me, and this was bad. I mean, I wrote the book again in 2020. So I was at the end of that year. So into 2021, I'm editing the book. And that's when I essentially entered the police academy. So I'm finishing the book as I'm have turned in my resignation at my job. And I'm getting into, a 6-month police academy with the county where I serve now. So that's the gist of the book, man. That's a little longer than I meant to explain it, but it was fun writing.
No,
I love to write. Writing's fun to me.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's the whole point of this, man. Like we're talking. I wanted to kind of highlight what you're doing, and I thought it was very cool. And it's it's funny to a degree. I feel like it kind of runs in the family because your brother Steven, he's pursuing being an author full time. He's dropped a couple of books. He has 2 novels and then 1 children's book, and I think it's super cool. And whenever you dropped it, I was like, no shit, Jonathan dropped a book. I'm buying it. So, and it's
appreciate that, man. Appreciate that support. Yeah. Steven and I, we have, my writing style is more of a memoir style. Like I love just my thoughts on things.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite author is a guy named Donald Miller. He wrote a couple bestsellers. He's a pretty big time author. And that's kind of how he writes, is this memoir style of he'll, introduce a subject and he's thinking about it and hear his thoughts about it. And he talked with his friends about it. And, that's kind of my style. Whereas in Steven's more so, he's got the more imaginative, he's going to create a story and write these, fiction works. Whereas I'm I can't believe that, because I can't imagine writing his style. That's just not mine. But our mom wrote, so it kind of does run in the family because, our mom was a ghostwriter for, for some authors that had some pretty, big publications. So, she edited a lot of the book for me, which was really helpful. And I know she helped Steven out some in his editing too.
So, okay, so when you're a ghostwriter, do you have an NDA?
Well, so most ghostwriters essentially their name is published, but it's not like the person that they're ghostwriting for is the one that the book says is the author. They're not being published under another name or anything. I mean, it's that author is the name. It's by that author, and then they'll have acknowledgement as the ghostwriter, in a smaller print, part of the book.
Okay, so my question is who did your mom ghostwrite for?
Well, so the late Jerry Falwell, who is not as I feel like he got a really bad rap from his comments about the World Trade Center. He made some comments at the end of his life about the World Trade Center and about homosexuals that I feel like tainted his legacy, because he was a big figure in the conservative Christian world.
Yeah.
And she wrote numerous books for him. And this was, back in like the 80s and it may have been, I think it was 80s and early 90s. But some of his books became really popular that she wrote. So, but my mom's super gifted. She's,
That's super cool. I had no idea. That's pretty cool.
She's really talented. So
it definitely does run in the family. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. My dad, he writes. I know he journals a lot, and he's thought about writing some, but he hasn't pursued any finished work that he's thought about publishing. But Stephen was the first, and then my mom was really the first, and then Stephen and me, I've kind of followed suit. So it's fun. It was a fun book to write. I may write some more. I don't know. Life in the police world now it's pretty crazy, man. So I have as much time to write.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I think Steven told me you're like on a third shift schedule, if I'm not mistaken. You going to
I work 2 to midnight. So the way that we work in Cobb County is we work 2 to midnight. So you're on 4 days and then you're off 3. So we work 4 10s and then we're off 3 days. So but when you're working a 10-hour shift and you have to gear up for your shift, I mean, it's easily the hour before you go in, you're gearing up and then you have to drive in, right? So it's really almost like at least 11 or 11 and a half hour workday, because you're getting, your bulletproof vest on, you're getting all your gear ready. And then you show up to the precinct, you clock in, then you have your shift. And then once you get off, you have to gear down. So it's it's a little different than a normal job where you just, you have to, there's a lot more, obviously involved with your attire, but it's a fun job, man. It's a really fun job.
Yeah. So, okay, let's rewind a little bit. You may have explained it. I don't remember. I'm the kind of guy that you can be like, hey, my name's so-and-so. I'm like, what's your name again? So, so what prompted you to change directions? Because I know you talked about you were a personal trainer, all that stuff. Can you explain that again, if you already did, about why you decided to?
The actual motivation. For me, it was I was becoming a little bit. I've always been somebody that wants to be challenged, and so I felt like in the fitness world, it's not that I had mastered the fitness world, because I was by no means at the top of the heap. But I felt like for the most part, I had a really good grasp of the industry. I knew how to give a team an efficient workout. I knew how to take athletes from point A to point B. And so it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, man, I thought there's more left in the tank for me. Like there's something else, just kind of was this like uneasy feeling that kind of was starting to build in me. And then now that I've gotten into this world, I feel like, I feel like I probably had maybe 85-90% of the fitness world figured out, whereas 10% was like, still, okay, I have stuff to learn. You always have stuff to learn. You're always going to learn. You're always going to grow. But now being in the law enforcement world, I think it's almost flipped, where it's like, I know about 10% and I have about 90% to figure out, So it's like, I feel like I'm ankle deep in the ocean. So some of it was that uneasiness in my heart, just of feeling like I didn't have as much of an area to grow in being in that industry. But then I think the bigger motivation for me was just how much I didn't realize how much of a patriot I was until I started seeing our country, kind of the turmoil of our country in 2020.
Yeah.
And, I love our country for the ideals of what we say we cherish more so than where we're at, if that makes any sense. Like,
yes,
we, from the onset, have promoted freedom, yet we weren't giving freedom to everybody. But that's been a value of ours, is freedom. We value accountability. We value hard work. All these things that is what the red, white, and blue stands for is what essentially pushed me to want to pursue law enforcement, because I wanted to protect those things while at the same time helping us head in a direction that I thought was beneficial, to those values. So, so for me, seeing our country be ripped apart, I'm like, we have a lot of great values. We don't need to start from scratch. So I kind of jumped in. It was one of those things where I just saw and heard officers were quitting that industry. And so I kind of thought to myself, what would it look like to run to an industry that people are running away from? Because there was a mass exodus in law enforcement in 2020. And I can say that because, like Atlanta PD, which is next to us, where I'm in Cobb County, which is next to Atlanta, they're still recovering from the number of officers that left. They were in a bad spot. Cobb County's not been as bad, as affected, but some counties were like really, really affected. And, I don't know if you're familiar with the thin blue line, which is, which represents law enforcement, but there's a flag, it's a black flag, and it has a thin blue line going through it. And the symbolism of that is that what separates peace from chaos is a thin blue line. And it's very thin. And, what was interesting to me about 2020 is people were saying we needed less law enforcement. And, this defund the police movement was pushed hard. And I can understand some of why, when I researched why people were saying that, I could understand some of the rationale behind that. But really, when you look at it, you don't need less. When you pull law enforcement away from areas, through history, it's shown that crime actually increases. So it's not something we need less. We actually need more law enforcement officers. And so I just was kind of excited to jump into that kind of void that, was sort of created in 2020. So, that's kind of it was twofold, man. Just feeling an uneasiness in my heart and then kind of seeing a need, both. So people ask me now that I'm in it, if I made the right decision, I'm like 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like have no regrets. It's a hard schedule and it's a hard job, but it's a rewarding job. It's a fun job.
Yeah, for sure, man. And that's one thing that, like, for me personally, hard work is whatever I'm doing is what makes me happy. So whether it be if you're in law enforcement or like for me, like just like, kind of grinding with this podcast and working, with my my actual job. I'm a manager at UPS and work in the Fort Worth area up here in Texas. I love working hard, doing that, or whether it be in the gym, that's what makes me happy. And it's cool to kind of see that you said you took a risk, that you may have said that with the book, but you are still taking a risk, like transitioning from being a personal trainer into law enforcement, because at the end of the day, you're putting your life on the line, being out there in the streets and kind of, doing what you need to do to help people.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think someone made a comment to me and they said, this is when I was transitioning into this, and they said, they looked at me like I was crazy. They were like, why in the hell would you're at a great job. You're making more money than you're going to make in law enforcement. you're at a safer, you're not risking your life. Why would you switch and do this job? He's like, why would you want to get into this, public service industry from where you're at? And this guy was a firefighter, and he was essentially saying that he doesn't enjoy his job. And when he said that, I thought to myself, you and I are very different people, because if I were him, I would not be doing what he's doing. Like, I'm not somebody that's going to sit in a job that I don't like or don't enjoy, or that I don't feel like is taking me somewhere. Like, I can sit in a job and know I'm working towards, this goal, wherever it is. I can sit and do that for a little while if I know the end game is somewhere else. But I'm not just going to sit in a job that I don't enjoy just to collect a paycheck, just because I need that money and I don't have anything else that feel like I need to pursue. Like, it just was interesting when he said that, because I'm thinking, man, if I'm you and I don't like my job, I'm stopping it. I'm going to find something else that I'm going to search hard and find something that I enjoy, that lights me up, that challenges me, and I'm going to pursue that. And, I had no problem at all. If I get into law enforcement and that's not for me, and a year down the road, I'm like, man, this is just not what it was cut out. I thought it was cut out to be. I have no problem quitting and going to something else, like. It was one of those things where I had an epiphany where I was like, you know what? I no longer care about money. There are a lot of jobs where I can make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And because if you're willing to work hard, man, you can make between 50 and 100K. It's just the way it is. You don't have to necessarily have some specialty, special gifting. If you're willing to bust your butt, you can make good money in a lot of different industries. And so I just was like, I was making good money in the fitness industry, but I was like, you know what? Like, I don't need to do this to collect a paycheck. And it started to feel like that. And so I just was like, I'm going to pursue this. And if I don't like it, man, I'll get out,
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's the beauty of America. There's so many things you can do, and you can create and do so much. Just like your podcast, it's like, that's the beauty of America, man. Like, no one's censoring you, saying, no, Sean, you can't do a podcast. So you like bourbon and you're doing a podcast. That's the beauty of America to me. It's just like, do what lights you up, man. Do what's fun to you and make money at the same time.
Yeah, and that's the goal for this. Is eventually, it's going to be a while. I need to work on the way I'm presenting myself, but eventually monetizing on this podcast would be awesome. So just because the whole point of me actually even starting this podcast was just to kind of like bide my time, to kind of like feel, because like I was saying is, I like hard work. I don't like to just like kind of sit around and just do nothing, because that makes me depressed. And that's one thing that, and this is something else I'll kind of touch on in a second, is like, specifically men not talking about their feelings. But, I started this podcast because on Monday I wasn't working, because whenever I moved to Texas to be with my fiance, I was working Tuesday through Saturday. Her schedule is Monday through Friday. And on Mondays, I'd go bourbon hunting. I'd come back home, watch TV, whatever, just doing mindless activities. And at a certain point, I was like, you know what, I've got to do something different. So I was like, let me start a podcast. I like whiskey. I can kind of incorporate that into what I'm doing. It's not strictly, obviously, about whiskey. I love having just like very organic and stimulating conversations with people. And, whiskey is just a conversation piece, if you will. So, but, one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't do, again, coming back to what I was talking about specifically for men, is, they don't talk about their feelings, because they're like, you know what, you're a man, don't talk about it, throw some dirt on it, keep going. And that's a problem, because if you're going to hold something in, eventually it's going to blow up, and, some unfortunate circumstances may happen, whether it be suicide or, just some sort of domestic abuse, or just mentally, like in your own head, like it's just, for lack of a better word, fucking with you.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, I'll tell you, man, one of the surprising things to me, being in law enforcement, is how many mentally ill people are out there.
Yeah.
And to your point, whether that was something that could have been prevented or not, I don't know. But I deal with a lot of crazy people. It's bizarre how many crazy people are walking among us. And dude, it's 100%. Like, it's a healthy thing to be able to talk about, like that's a stigma with guys that and I fight that with some of my good friends. I'm like, because some of my guys, like, I'll ask them how they're doing, and they may give me like a surface level answer, and I'm like, man, like I'll really want to know like how you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, if I keep asking you that question and you never have anything going on, then I know you're probably blowing smoke up, because we all at some point eventually, you may not have something going on now, but it's just human to have things going on now and then. So if I'm, having honest conversations with a buddy and they're never sharing struggles, no one's life is that perfect. So I know that they're probably just not don't feel comfortable sharing with me, which is fine. It's like that's part of growing as a man, is knowing who you can share and who you can't share things with. It's like, there are some people that just don't need to know your business.
Yeah.
When you do find those people, those 2 or 3 or 4 guys that you can like actually open up with and share that and have those conversations, once you find them, man, that's healthy. You need to do that, because you're right, man. It can result in things that you may not see immediately, but down the road can have consequences that you maybe never saw coming. It's like, depression's a real thing, man. People struggle with depression. I mean, people go to bad places all the time for, I think, some of those reasons. They just don't have people to talk to. They don't feel comfortable. It could be a lot of different things. But I'm a big, it's cool you said that, because I'm really big on that too. And Steve and I both, we try to share stuff with each other and try to always, let each other know that nothing's off the table. Because a lot of times with guys, you never want to appear that you don't have it figured out. And then if you don't have it figured out, that's a sign of weakness. So, no guy wants to not have it figured out or appear weak. But yeah, I mean, you got to be able to have some real conversation with some guys, man. Sometimes that'll be able to, transparency is a big deal. And obviously, that's honestly, that's part of the book, man. You may have realized that in the first few chapters. I write about some things in the book that probably some of the people that have read some of those things are like, they've like, I can't believe you said those things. And I'm like, that's part of the point of the book is the more you're real with yourself and the more authentic you are with yourself, and the less you fake. I think that's one of the problems in church culture in general, in the US and probably like globally, is there's this like unspoken rule that if you have Jesus, you don't have struggles. And so in Christian world, a lot of Christians won't share their struggles with each other because out of fear of judgment. And it's just not healthy, man. It's actually really unhealthy. So that's part of my point in the book, is to try to like, expose that and just be like, hey, here's some of my dirty laundry. Don't be afraid to air your dirty laundry too. We all have it. It's just, what is it?
Yeah. And people will gravitate towards that. Transparency is, I feel like, a very rare thing, especially with social media nowadays. It's because social media, whether it be, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, it's more about highlight reel, and I fucking hate it, because we're connected, and I put that in quotes for everyone watching this on YouTube, because we're very connected as a race, but at the same time we're very disconnected because we're so attached to our phones. And I'll be the first to admit it. Like, the first thing I do, which I need to stop doing, is like, as I wake up, grab from my phone, and I'm like, let me see who is liking my shit on social media today. It's a very tough thing, and I think it's like, one thing that I think that we definitely need as a society, which is what you're actually doing with your life, is having stronger men. And you took a risk and you went to join the force in Cobb County in Georgia, and you know it's it's a very respectable thing, and I just think we need to have more individuals like yourself to keep moving forward with our society, because it's I feel like social media exposes a lot more than in the past, but
It's definitely a comparison trap, and like my wife
yeah,
talk about that a lot. Of it's really easy, like you said, to see people's highlight reels and to assume they're happier than you are.
yes,
And then if you couple, okay, I've got the Instagram, I'm seeing people's snapshots of the high points of their life, and you couple that with your own struggles that you're hiding. It's like those two together, man, can be a bad recipe, for things. So, I'm really big on, like I'm very like non-judgmental with my friends. Like my friends can truly tell me anything, and I'm not going to go and I'm not going to share it with anybody. I'm going to try to help them process whatever they're like going through. And,
yeah,
no judgment, like, I've got, in my book, man, I share some of my struggles in that book, man. But if I had shared all my struggles, like it'd be another book of just all my struggles, So it's just like,
yeah,
we all have stuff that, doubts and fears, and, yeah, it's you've got to learn to be real with people that are in your inner circle. Find who those people are. Bob Goff is one of my favorite authors, and he talks about like, who are your eight? And he's like, and what he means by eight is you have room for 8 people around your deathbed. And he was like, who are your 8 people going to be? And like, who are those 8 going to be that you're going to do life with? That you're going to be able to have those real conversations, because they've proven that they can handle you telling them, and it's going to stay there, and they're going to pray with you, or they're going to help you process through whatever it is. And they're going to be your true friends. And so he talks about that in one of his early books. I think it was Love Does. Like, who are your 8? Like, who are your people? Figure out who they are, and then really jump in and dive deep with those 8 people. And if we did that more, and especially as guys, you would have probably more men that are being authentic in their other relationships. Because if you're real in those 8 and those 7 or 8 relationships, it's going to help you live a more authentic in real life, with your other friendships as well. So
yeah. It's I use to a degree, I feel like I kind of use comedy as like a defense mechanism, but it's funny you said those 8. It just it made me think of MySpace. That's your top 8. So
I remember MySpace was like in its heyday. I had a MySpace account, and like selecting your profile song for your MySpace, account was a big deal, because when someone clicked on your, MySpace page, whatever song you had started playing. I remember that being a big. I remember having a MySpace page.
Yeah,
I think it's come back, right? Like, didn't Justin Timberlake buy it out or something?
I mean, I've heard that, but I don't think it's come back. I think
I don't know anybody, but I've never heard anybody recently talk about their MySpace page, so maybe not.
No, I don't think it has. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Justin Timberlake at some point, it probably has been a couple of years ago, has bought it. I think it was specifically for music.
Yeah,
whatever. I don't really know, but yeah, that was the days, man. MySpace. Top 8. Get your background, get your music. So,
yeah, your background. You had to get your background in your music.
Yeah, that's funny, but yeah. So,
what's the so with you? I know this is switching gears, but with you guys getting engaged, what's the game plan for you? Are you going to stay in Dallas?
Yeah. So, I don't see us moving from this area anytime soon. We may move to a different house in this specific area, but
is she from there?
Yes. So she grew up, was raised here. I don't see us moving anywhere anytime soon. I'm a little bit more flexible with whatever I can do with UPS. UPS has given me the ability to do a lot of different things in life, and it's the whole reason I actually met my fiance, because I was traveling with work, and I just happened to be in the DFW area whenever I was working, and met her via Bumble. So that was that's a dating app where the female will message the male first and kind of go from there, and we kind of hit it off, and I don't see us moving anywhere outside of the DFW area. I love Dallas. It's super cool. I wouldn't have moved here if I didn't love it. So
Yeah.
and there's we got a lot going on with the engagement, and taking that next step. And it's funny because like we were talking about it the other day. Like, does it feel any different that we're engaged? No, it doesn't. But it's just just another chapter in our life, and we're growing and understanding each other as individuals. And
yeah, y'all are about to be in a busy season, man. I remember that being a busy season for Lindsay and I. Was our engagement, and then first year of marriage. Just new things, and the first year of marriage for us was a tough one, but it's so different for every couple. But it's stuff's going to be new, man. I remember Lindsay and I, one of the biggest fights we ever got in was over our the wedding list. Who are we going to invite to our wedding? And that's still to this day, 9 years later, that's one of the biggest fights we've ever been in. Was I wanted to invite everybody.
Yeah.
And she wanted to invite, a select few people. And I'm kind of glad she kind of swayed me. We went more in her direction with that, which I'm kind of glad, because looking back, I think we had like just under 200 people at our wedding. And
it's a lot.
And it was plenty. It was plenty. It went by so fast, and I'm kind of glad we didn't have more people. If I'd, been in charge of the list, we would have had, 300 or 400 people, and it went by fast enough with 200. I can't imagine having more people, because it's like you talk to everybody for 3 minutes. That's 200 people, 3 minutes each. That's 600 minutes. Like, we only had the venue for 4 hours, so you can't even fit 3 minutes in with each person. So yeah, but that's funny. But yeah, you're about to get into all that. Have y'all set a date yet?
Yeah, so it's tentative for now, but it'll be December 3rd, 2023. Okay. And we're choosing a venue it's a little bit newer, a rooftop, and it kind of overlooks the skyline of Dallas, and it's so cool. It's beautiful. And whenever we're actually going to be at the venue, it's going to have a tent. That way we're not freezing our butts off and stuff like that. And I'm excited to be able to kind of like help bring our vision to life, and decorate and stuff like that. Because that's one thing that's kind of funny, is like, if you're going to a venue, typically the people that are giving you a tour are going to things like the groom does not give a shit about what's going on. To a degree, it makes sense. But it's funny because like when we went to go tour this venue, like the people that work there were just like specifically talking to my fiance, and I'm like, I'm here too. Like, I actually want to be involved in what's going on. Yeah. Like, oh, really? Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm here. Like, why wouldn't I be? So they're like, well, typically, like, they don't like really care. And I'm like, well, I actually care. I want to be involved in all this stuff, because it's exciting. It's a new chapter of our lives. I want to be involved in what we're doing. It's my wedding too. Because typically speaking, I don't know like how it started, but it's like, if it's a wedding, it's like more so directed towards the bride. It's just, for whatever reason, that's just how it is. But no, I'm excited. So
yeah, you should be, man. It's a big deal. It is going to be exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And but changing gears, just like you said. But what is next for your writing career? I'm very interested to see like what else you have in store.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I may write something about the stories that I went on the road in January. So I've been on the road for 8 months as a police officer, so not even a year. And the stories that I have already are some super bizarre stories.
Yeah.
So I've thought about, I mean, my faith is like the bedrock of who I am. It's like my foundation. So anything I write will have at its foundation, it will be a faith-based, book. But I've thought about, writing something about just the ins and outs of law enforcement and like some of the stories, that I've encountered in just 8 months. So we'll see. It's I'm still adjusting to the schedule. For years I was up early, 4:30 a.m., 5 a.m. Because you train clients at before they go to work.
Yeah.
And so now I'm transitioning into this whole new world where I actually like don't get in bed until 1 o'clock, and I'm not waking up at 4:30. I'm actually trying to sleep in because I have to be up, again for a late shift the next day. But I'm thinking of potentially incorporating that law enforcement perspective and just there's so much misinterpretation of our industry in general still, and I really wish that every citizen could do a ride along with a police officer because I think it would change the perspective. I think it should be almost like a requirement, like almost like, okay, when you get your driver's license at 16, you have to ride along with a police officer. Because people would just have a different perspective of what we do. And yeah, it's a crazy industry. But I think people would be interested in some of the stories. And so I'm thinking about, incorporating, some of those stories and some of what I'm doing in law enforcement with my faith and what's going on with that. Because the Lord's always taking you places. And so I'm always growing in my faith and the Lord's always showing me new things. And so that may be something in the future that I try to attempt to write. But man, right now I'm just trying to adjust and get into the flow of the new career and the new schedule. And so we'll see, man. There's a lot of things I want to pursue in law enforcement. SWAT looks really exciting to me. Yeah, after you've been in on the road for 2 years, you can apply for a specialty unit. So SWAT is a specialty unit. So I may do eventually try to become a SWAT, officer. We have over 20 specialty units in Cobb County. So it has the beauty of Cobb is we have 700,000 residents. So we have a lot of the capabilities of big departments, but yet we're somewhat of a smaller department. So you can really pursue all the things that you could pursue really in any profession in law enforcement, you can pursue through Cobb County. So, if you want to be a homicide detective, or if you want to be, if you want to specialize on a gang unit, or if you want to, be SWAT, or, they have all these different, you want to be on the dive team, you can be, they have all these different, avenues to pursue. So if you get bored and being a patrol officer, then you can apply for a specialty and do that, for a while. So a lot of the officers will do things for 4 or 5 years, and then they'll transition out and they'll pursue something else. So it's not uncommon for officers to have done 4 or 5 different roles in Cobb County. So we'll see, man. Writing's definitely always a passion. So I'll probably write something, in the future, and it'll probably be something with faith, something with law enforcement.
Yeah, for sure. So that's cool, man. Now I'm looking forward to see if you ever have anything else coming out. But first, I need to finish this book.
Still finish it, man.
About halfway through. I'll give you a review because I know that's how you get some traction. So where can people find Acorn to Oak Trees?
Yeah, so Acorns to Oak Trees, if you type that into Amazon, it should pop up on the first page. My author name is Jonathan Allen. My middle name is Allen. So I thought Allen would be a little easier for people to remember than McClellan. So my pen name is Jonathan Allen. I've had friends like actually look up, my first and last name and not be able to find the book because I published under my pen name, Jonathan Allen. But yeah, Amazon, man, if you go to Amazon, type in Acorns to Oak Trees, you should be able to find it.
Cool. All right, y'all heard it here. Amazon, read this book. Again, I'm not finished with it. Very excited to finish this book. I think I'm 4 chapters in. very enticing. I'm excited to finish it. So really appreciate you getting on with me and shooting the crap. Looking forward to everything you're doing in the future, bud. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Appreciate it, man. I'll have to when I get some new bottles of whiskey, I'll have to hit you up and let you know, when I get something good.
Yeah, I'm down for that. Until next time, guys. Peace.